Who are you? It's a question that can be answered, of course, on a number of levels, depending on who's doing the asking, and I suppose who's doing the answering. The answer might simply be your goes-by name, though in some cases you might need to use your full name. Married women might have to include their maiden names when identifying themselves, and a third and fourth generation son may get to add a number to the end of his name, like Thurston Howell III, for example. Your identity might include your job, Joe the plumber, or your position, President Obama. You might identify yourself by a relative, someone's husband or wife or son or daughter. In the church, priests, nuns, and monks are known as fathers, sisters, and brothers. And if you make it all the way to the Vatican, everyone in the world calls you by a new name, Francis, for now. What seems to be a simple question does not always have a simple answer. In the Gospels, the writers often make a point of emphasizing certain questions that Jesus asked of those with whom he came into contact. The questions are loaded ones. Jesus' questions are not regular ones. Who, what, where, when, or why. The questions that Jesus has are not looking for information. They are challenging the one being questioned. For example, Jesus asks, where will we get enough bread for all these people to eat? Jesus asks, which one of the three was neighbor to the man who was robbed? Jesus asks, are you saying this on your own, or is that others have been telling you about me? The question today, who do you say that I am? Jesus wants to know in the gospel. It is a question about the identity of Jesus, but in this case, the answer reveals as much about the one who responds. If Jesus is, as Peter says, the Christ of God, that can mean only one thing. It cannot and could not possibly encompass the many expectations and hopes that surrounded the mystery of the Messiah. If you tune in next week, or if you want to read ahead, you'll see how quickly Jesus brings Peter and the others back down to earth. He changes the language about the Messiah from the heavenly to the earthly, because Jesus is both the Christ and the Son of Man. His meaning is clear. This Messiah thing is about suffering, rejection, and death before it's about glory. Interestingly, this story ends up being about more than the identity of Jesus. The church hears this story as an identification moment for Peter, who becomes the head of the apostles. Because we know how this will play out, we know that Peter will not always be such a steadfast rock, as Jesus called him. In fact, he'll be anything but. Temperamental, emotional, impetuous, Peter will speak without thinking and react without considering consequences. Infamously, he'll deny even knowing Jesus at all. Jesus will invite him along, though, and encourage him to follow the path. Jesus will help him become what God made him to be. It is not so much about the kind of man that Peter is, it's more about the man he will become. In the end, Simon Peter will become that rock of faith that Jesus called him to be. Isn't that a worthy goal for all of us?